Good morning. Welcome to District Court. We're here in the matter of State of Utah versus Franke. Ms. Franke, is anyone pressuring you to enter into this agreement?
No.
You need to just accept the fact that your YouTube channel is big. If I allowed myself, I could really, just turn myself into a completely different person than who I am.
People who live in distortion are inherently not safe, and yet all of us inherently want to feel safe.
Most of it seemed to showcase how she decided to punish her children in ways that became increasingly alarming and very questionable.
You are not protecting them. You are introducing them to the world.
I'm only gonna say it one more time, and then you're gonna lose the privilege to eat dinner. Anger is just simply a tool, just like any other emotion. I don't want to make you unsafe, and it's all manipulation.
It will never be the truth that I am justified in harming another person, physiologically harming someone. That will never be the truth.
This morning, Ruby Franke pleaded guilty to 4 counts. She will remain incarcerated awaiting sentencing.
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
It's not often enough that I get to speak to you about the downfall of a public figure leading to any kind of actual definable justice, but for once, I get to say the words, somebody did something awful, and that somebody is going to prison. But of all the stories that I've covered in the last year, who is it? Is it the woman with the pyramid-shaped head who cosplayed as a progressive champion of the people before being exposed, allegedly, as an abusive control freak and a plagiarist? Or is it the man who hurt his own family, filmed it, uploaded it while trying to justify his content by claiming it was all just a prank, bro?
Just a prank, bro!
Maybe it was the woman who allegedly stole thousands of dollars in a fitness grift that directly contributed to multiple women developing EDs before transitioning into a much more transparent religious influencer grift. Maybe it's the multinational corporation with a shadowy founder who has dabbled in racist anti-Semitic merchandise, allegedly exploitative working conditions, and literal theft from artists. Surely, if we're talking about the complete downfall of somebody, it would be one of them, right? Unfortunately, for too often, a measured downfall is more about perception and less about action. Illuminaughtii has lost 400,000 subscribers and counting, and is allegedly in the middle of lawsuits. But she will likely never see the inside of a jail cell or be taken off the platform ever. Daddy05 was taken off of YouTube, but he's back. Because, of course he is. Sheehan's gonna Sheehan, and today Sheehan is still worth around $90 billion. Brittany Dawn settled the lawsuit with the state of Texas for $400,000, becoming one of the only figures we've covered who's experienced actual lasting repercussions for their actions, but she never went to jail, and she's still online, and she still sucks, allegedly. But the pattern of non-accountability or quasi-accountability finally comes to an end with none other than Ruby Franke, the momfluencer and the head of the notorious 8 Passengers YouTube channel who has been accused for years of harming her children in increasingly disturbing ways alongside her husband, Kevin. On December 18th, 2023, Ruby Franke stepped into a plea hearing for her crimes and admitted unequivocally that she was guilty of 4 counts of aggravated CA. Now, sentencing will happen at a later date, but if the news that Ruby got caught wasn't good enough, and trust me, it was a good news, okay? A bitch was very excited when I heard this was something finally was happening, but things got even better when on December 27th, 2023, just about a week ago, fellow YouTuber and arguably scum barnacle of the earth, Jodi Hildebrandt, Ruby's literal partner in crime, also pled guilty to 4 counts of aggravated CA. Never before have YouTubers been held accountable at the scale that Ruby and Jody have been, at least no one that we've covered here, which leaves me with a few questions. How severe will Ruby's sentence be? What about Ruby's actual partner and alleged partner in crime, Kevin Franke? And what about Jodi Hildebrandt in regards to her own sentencing? Yes, these are guilty pleas, but could they get off on a sweet, sweet deal with minimal time to serve? And most importantly, how did we get to this point right here, right now? Well, we're gonna dig into that. And this is what we know. Oh, hi there. Hello, hello, hi. It's my face again. Swoop! Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you are feeling recharged and ready for another 365 days of madness. I took a little bit of time off at the very end of the year, or actually my body took a little bit of time off. I was sick and then I had some health stuff going on for like a couple of weeks at the end of the year, so that's why I've just kind of was MIA. But I am back, I am recharged. I'm so stoked to be back with you again. I have some truly incredible new things in store for this channel and my second channel to happen all this year. I cannot wait to share it with all of you. Thank you so much for being here with me. And if you're seeing me for the first time, welcome. I make documentaries and short films on unsolved cases, true crime, and social media influencers who abuse their power and manipulate audiences because, as I always say, it's not drama, it's dangerous. We also dig deeper into the root psychology, and yes, sometimes we take it to Petty University because, honey, petty is my coping mechanism for the asshats, okay? Raise your hand, class, raise your hand if you could relate. If you want to join the Petty University community, all are welcome. And you can also grab your ribcage hoodie and the new Valid collection from the Petty University apparel shop. It is linked below as always. Again, so many of you grabbed up your items over the holidays. I hope you are truly loving them. Please continue to tag me in your photos on Instagram so that I can share you. I love seeing them. I also have a new video on my brand new second channel, Swoop 2. It's T-O-O. It's linked below, and I am working on a new schedule finally where I post each week on both channels. So, you know, pray for me, okay? Also, are you following me on Instagram? We just hit 100,000 followers. That is so incredible. And now we are on the road to 150,000. So be sure to follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. That's where I am posting most often. I would love to have you. Okay, we're gonna dive into this story, but real quick, a big thank you to today's sponsor, Cooking Fever. I don't know about you, but sometimes I just need to unplug from the world around me and play some games. And lately, I've been obsessed with Cooking Fever, a free, fully interactive game where I get to cook delicious meals and become a master chef. Okay, I can't cook in real life, but in this game, oh honey. Cooking Fever is the world's largest cooking theme mobile game and has over 30 unique restaurants and cuisines all around the world. I am obsessed with this game. You get to cook amazing meals, run your own restaurant, and as you progress through the game, you can upgrade your restaurant, starting with meals and kitchen appliances and ending with interior details. And they just teamed up with TGI Fridays. Yes, TGI Fridays, and they opened a new TGI Fridays restaurant location right inside the game. It looks just like a real life TGI Fridays, and it is so super cute in the game version. I love it. It is so much fun just experimenting with different recipes and raking in those tips. You receive coins for upgrades to get more tips. It is seriously so addicting and fun, and a great swap for social media or TV because it's just kind of relaxing and a nice change of pace to unwind with. And best of all, the game is free and available for iOS and Android. Yes, F-R-E-E, free, my friends. So if you're ready to do some super fun cooking and run your very own restaurant, click the link in the description or use the QR code here to download the Cooking Fever straight to your phone for free right now. I absolutely love this game and I know that you will too. So download and start playing today. You deserve it, honey. Okay, back to the doc. Okay, as usual, I want to give a heads up that any potentially sensitive information will be censored and there will be no graphic discussions to make sure that we adhere to the platform's policies and to make the doc as digestible as possible for all of you watching. I want to continue to create a space where we can talk about these important stories without triggering you watching with the harsh details, particularly with these types of stories. There will be statements that are made that are alleged. Please do form your own opinions, and as always, please do not spread any hate on any platform ever, and be respectful in the comments as y'all always are. Okay, class in session.
Popular Utah family vlogger Ruby Franke was arrested Wednesday.
A Utah woman who gave online parenting advice through a once popular YouTube channel has now been arrested.
The arrest of a popular YouTube mom known for her strict parenting style.
In the grand tradition of the absolute worst suspects in the cesspool, we are back today for part 3 of my coverage on the 8 passengers travesty. Now, if you want to get caught up on the full story, I recommend that you watch part 1 and 2, which are linked below. But to give you a very quick recap of kind of the bullet points, 8 Passengers was a YouTube channel that was run by a momfluencer named Ruby Franke and her hubby, Kevin, documenting what seemed to be a fairly banal day-to-day life alongside their 6 kids in Utah in a supersized Mormon family. Now, specifically, they were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, as I've said before, this is an important detail to remember, like otherwise I wouldn't feel the need to point it out. Ruby and Kevin ran this channel from 2015 to 2023, and on the surface it seemed like pretty basic mommy vlog BS, but beneath the surface, there were some incredibly questionable things going on. If you want to know, here are a few of the censored lowlights from these lowlives.
You have a football game to go to. You ignore the crying in the background.
Just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, so the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry.
It is the parents' job to make sure they're being managed, and so that would fall onto me, and I am not willing to take the time to manage all of the electronics. So for the entire summer, there will be no iPads in the house. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room. That was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom. All of the discipline takes place off camera.
No amount of money. And I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it.
When I first started covering this story in early 2023, it was part of a bigger focus by content creators and myself on the absolute moral failings of family channels on YouTube, leveraging what I believe to be the exploitation of children for ad revenue. Creators that have covered like the Daddy of 5, the Hilderbrand family, the Ballinger family, like you know them, you hate them, and countless creators have covered them to blow the whistle on how potentially dangerous their content is. Some of this whistleblowing has resulted in YouTube taking action against the channels, with the most noteworthy example being the shutdown of the original Daddy of 5 channel. But Ruby and Kevin, their story took a much darker turn. After some time, there was a marked shift in Ruby's approach to content, and she teamed up with another woman named Jodi Hildebrandt, a self-proclaimed mental fitness expert, whatever the hell that fake ass bull title is. Honestly, mental gymnastics sounds more appropriate, but you know, what do I know? But Jodi ran an alleged mental health consulting company called Connections that had its own corresponding YouTube channel. But you know what? Jodi's steaming pile of compost makes me remember something. We've got a little sidebar here. Jodi Hildebrandt's website is literally still up. Yeah, and literally still accepting new patients. I mean, at least you can click the buttons and it does things, and it looks like it's literally charging credit cards to speak to Jodi and Ruby. Hi, you not. Whew. Please, for the love of all things petty, do not sign up for this bullfuckery. Jodi lost her license and her freedom. Somebody needs to shut that site down. Okay, sidebar over, back to the story. Now, along the way, Ruby became a part of Jodi's already touring circus as well.
There's no truth in me doing something in order for you to feel safe. Safety is about you. Now, you may agree with, it's fine to be transgendered, as they call it. That's just a made-up word. Somebody made it up. Ah, yes, memories of simpler times. Stay awful, Jodi. Stay awful. Now, this is where the story gets a little complicated and branches off into 2 wildly different directions before converging into one big fustercluck. So we'll start with Jodi, whose company Connections claim to give relationship guidance, with their key focus being on people achieving true connections with each other, not being in distortion. Their words, not mine. My gosh, not mine. Each one of us are responsible to learn 3 core principles: impeccable honesty, rigorous personal responsibility, and vulnerable humility in order to stay connected. So distortion is the choice to disconnect. It's a choice to disconnect. So all of us want to have relationships and we all want to be connected in those relationships. However, few of us understand that connection is an outcome of living those 3 principles. And so distortion is its counterpart. And so if you don't understand connection, then you won't understand that you're disconnecting.
This, friends, is a prime example of what I like to call a bitch's lips are moving, but they ain't saying not a damn thing. I think this is what Meghan Trainor was singing about last century. So here are some words directly from Jodi's should-be defunct website. Quote, by taking a course, people learn they are in distortion by the following: being addicted to your spouse, work, shopping, electronic games, sleep, social media, driving, receiving compliments, exercise, eating, D or alcohol, SP, hobbies, entertainment. You know, like generally existing and breathing as a human being and doing things to enjoy your life. Sorry, I added that. Okay, let me get back to her script. Let's continue. The things you can become addicted to are endless. Also, living in shame and denial, knowing you are not enough, being codependent in your relationship, living in lust, being sexually attracted to your spouse, because God forbid you be sexually attracted to the person you married. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm starting the year off extra petty, I know, and it's just because this story, more than like a lot of the stories that I've covered here, just pisses me off so much. And y'all know I cope with things with the petty, and I'm just, okay, let me get back to it. So to narrow kind of Jodi down even further, it was actually shaming tactics, primarily targeting the men in the relationships that Jodi was counseling, that has proved to be some of the most destructive and most diabolical for years. This is not just a 2023 thing. This is years. Though, you know, yeah, she does manage to somehow outdo herself with the recent charges, but we're not there yet. So in regards to Jodi's relentless machine churning out countless victims, and in particular male victims, there is nobody in the Jodi Hildebrandt story who has publicly and devastatingly experienced this as hard as Adam Steed, a man who received national recognition as a whistleblower against the LDS Boy Scouts long time ago, who saw his life completely ruined after Jodi's so-called counseling, excuse me, mental fitness. To paraphrase myself from part 2, Adam had been struggling with a lifelong addiction to something Jodi called impure behavior, and I still will not be going into detail about that. I believe that man has faced enough torment and degradation to last 10 lifetimes. I'm not gonna drudge up the stuff that she claimed against him. Now, Jodi told Adam that he had a number of distortions, and then began what Adam describes as a 2-pronged attack on his relationship. First, by placing Adam, a victim of CSA, in an accountability group with literal S offenders attending the group. That would be like hosting an AA meeting at a bar during happy hour, only make it 50 times more disturbing. And it was on top of all of that that she began weaponizing information from her sessions with Adam by telling it to his wife, who increasingly distanced herself from Adam as the months went on. Now, eventually she left Adam, took the kids, and made allegations of harmful behavior against Adam that kickstarted a series of events, including him being kicked out of school and banned from church services. Now, along the way, Adam's wife began working for Jodi. Not a conflict of interest at all. This man literally saw his life fall apart in one of the most disgusting and dramatic ways imaginable, and it was all, allegedly, Jodi's fault. Jodi, a woman who has also been accused of abusing her nibbling Jessie for over a year when Jessie was a teen.
I understand why the public is focusing on Ruby. It's Ruby's children. But all of these theories and these modalities and these parenting ideas, that all comes from Jodi.
So, what does all of that have to do with Ruby? Well, almost beat for beat, something similar happened with Ruby and Kevin Franke. They started getting counseling by Jodi. Jodi isolated Ruby and Kevin, and the couple separated. Ruby started then working with her counselor, Jodi. And as for the allegations of abuse, well,
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's hungry and he's thirsty.
This is when the story finally made international headlines everywhere. On August 31st, 2023, Ruby and Jody were arrested after Utah residents made the horrific discovery of Ruby's 12-year-old son walking around a neighborhood in an emaciated state looking for food and water. And when Jody's house was searched later, one of her daughters was found in a similar, equally disturbing state. Now, my heart just has been broken for her family, not for her family, her kids, since the very beginning, since before she was arrested, before we knew that it was really this bad, just seeing how she treated them in the vlog content and the things that she put them through. It's just, without going into detail, of course, it's just so sad, and I hope that, you know, they're quite young. You know, the ones who were directly involved with the arrests are still very, very young. So in some ways, I'm just like hoping, I don't know, you know, I'm not a psychologist, I don't know how this works, but in some ways I'm just hoping that they are so young that they can bounce back quicker from this, that maybe it won't implant in the brain in the same way if they had been a bit older. I don't even know if that can happen. That's just what I hope, because I don't want them to suffer more than they already have. Anyway, sorry. Now, Jody and Ruby were arrested and held under suspicion of 2 charges that later became 6 charges each. And it was this series of events that finally led the platform to delete the 8 passengers and connections channels, not the, you know, I don't know, mountains of evidence of harm uploaded to the channels and monetized to the ka-ching of millions of dollars, or the thousands of folks asking the platform to do anything before it was too late. But hey, E for effort, I guess, right? At least it's progress. Since the arrest, Ruby and Jody have been in jail awaiting sentencing, and there have been a few noteworthy updates that I didn't get the chance to cover between Part 2's release and now, which I want to get into before we dissect their pleas. So first up was a wealth of body cam footage obtained by ABC showing the moment Ruby's house was swarmed by police.
Exclusive body cam footage obtained by ABC News showing the moments police swarm Frankie's Utah home the day of her arrest on August 30th.
Police department!
Guns drawn as police scour room to room in Frankie's home for more of her children after one of them escaped from a house of her business partner nearly 4 hours away in Ivins, Utah.
Her son was wandering the streets, her daughter was there, but what about Ruby's middle children?
But more exclusive body cam confirming the whereabouts of the 2 middle children.
Well, we have to physically see her.
A different police agency finding them miles away and turning them over to the state.
According to the Salt Lake Tribune in Utah, about an hour after police found Ruby's son and daughter, she asked her buddy Pam Botcher, who we briefly talked about in Part 2, to pick up her middle daughters. Now, Pam, if you don't remember, is the alleged president of the Connections Foundation and a woman that Jody's nibbling Jessie describes as one of Jody's biggest enablers. And listen, I really hope that someone is digging into her activities during this time. I mean, if she's purely, completely innocent of any wrongdoing, then I hope that it is left there. But if she ain't, the way Jessie is talked, I don't know, Kevin too. Now, there are hours and hours of this body cam footage out there, and much of it has been released publicly. So I won't try to, you know, show you every part of it that I could find. However, one of the most noteworthy exchanges in the whole video is a clip which, coincidentally, I also won't show in the interest of protecting the kids. But it was where a cop asked one of them why they looked terrified, and they don't answer straight away. So the cop asks, do you go to school or would you rather not talk? After 45 minutes or so of back and forth like this, their sibling whispers into their ear, and then a worker with the Utah Division of Child and Family Services arrives and tells the officer, quote, if you're going to talk to them separately. I think they might be coaching them, implying that one of the siblings might have been whispering into the child what to tell the officer. Now, I know that there has been some blowback against the officer as to how this was handled. I am not law enforcement professional. nor am I in child services. I don't know the full protocol there, but I'm just glad the end result is still the same, that these women were arrested. It leaves me asking the question, were they just frightened, or had Ruby and Jody coached them not to speak if the police ever showed up? They could have been, for all we know, they could have been telling them all along, hey, if anyone ever shows up at the door, you're not allowed to tell them what's happening here. Everything about this situation is just so chilling to me, and the release of the body cam footage is quite illuminating. But it's not as illuminating as the Kevin Franke development. On November 30th, Kevin Franke made the news when it was announced that he had filed for divorce from Ruby after a long period of separation between the two. Now, according to NBC News, Kevin filed for divorce in the 4th District Court of Utah. Divorce records are private in Utah, and Ruby and Kevin filed something called a domestic relations injunction, which basically means that neither of them are allowed to harass or like talk shit about each other during the divorce in front of the kids. Now, if you've watched the other parts of my series, you know that the Kevin Franke of it all is a bit frustrating for me. Since Kevin was, in my opinion, at best aware of and at worst an accomplice to the very worst things Ruby Franke did to the family. Kevin even did some truly heinous shit himself, and the fact that the absolute worst he's got coming to him seems to be a dissolution of his marriage it's incredibly disappointing on so many levels, okay? A bitch is like, okay, innocent till proven guilty. Now, to be fair, Kevin has firmly denied being aware of the extent of what Ruby was charged with doing, and that could be true. But as we saw in parts 1 and 2, that doesn't mean he wasn't aware there was abusive things happening ever. Like not a chance. Like, he was literally there while some of it was filmed and edited and uploaded, and had no problem spending that cold, hard, harmful family vlog cash. Come on, Kevin, make it rain in this exploitative bitch. Sorry. It's a new year. Lip gloss. All right.
Ruby and Kevin used Chad for more views.
That is very true. I'm not a part of this thing.
So you're probably wondering, what did Chad do? Okay, we're not even going to entertain that stuff.
Long before we started YouTube, there were a lot of behavioral and emotional challenges that we were dealing with our kids. And we've been consulting with mental health and emotional health professionals for years. And the things that we show and share, and the things that many of you are criticizing and calling abusive, are actually things that mental health professionals have counseled us to do.
Now, Kevin's eternally bland lawyer, Randy Kester, sat down for an interview with Law and Crime the day after announcing the divorce, and although it painted a clearer picture on why Kevin hasn't even seen his kids in over a year, yeah, it doesn't paint a better picture to me on why he even deserves to see them anytime soon. I don't know that that is in their best interest.
The last time she and Kevin spoke directly between one another was when, on the day of her arrest, she called Kevin and asked for his help with the kids. And they hadn't spoken for even months before that. I mean, over the course of the year of their separation, they spoke directly maybe 3 or 4 times in an entire year. And then that's why when he got this call just out of the blue, it really kind of took him by surprise.
Now, we will be going over Ruby's charges a little bit later, but I can't help but feel really uncomfortable with this picture being painted of Kevin Franke as the savior in this situation. Like, I don't doubt that he was unaware of the severity of what happened in 2023 if he wasn't even around for it, but this is an avalanche though. Ruby and Kevin have always had it in them to be improper parents at best, and downright jail-worthy at worst. I mean, literally, look at what's happening. So it just kind of seems a bit rich for Kevin to act as if he is in any way morally superior here, okay? Allegedly, yeah. The biggest breakthroughs in the Ruby Franke case began truly on December 15th when her lawyers released a statement that dropped a few big bombshells. First, Ruby was entering into a plea agreement on Monday, December 18th. And second, she was doing it by throwing Jodi Hildebrandt as far under the jail bus as humanly possible. Quote, Ruby Franke is a devoted mother. I'm sorry, I will try to read that again and get through it. Seriously. Ruby Franke is a devoted... Try it again. Ruby Franke is a devoted mother and is also a woman committed to constant improvement. Wait. Okay. Okay, I didn't know if I was gonna do this, okay, but bitch, it is 2024, new year, new Professor Petty, okay? Petty Crocker has entered the chat, so Petty University, roll the intro. I hate to stop so soon on this, but I really love the heavy lifting that Ruby Franke is a devoted mother is doing for a woman accused of harming those she mothers in increasingly awful ways. It's just like, what is she devoted to? Windward law, the representatives, violence, chaos, perhaps a race to the top of problematic family channel iceberg to criminal pipeline? Is that what she's committed to? Maybe it's a calorie deficit diet. I mean, it's just like we don't have a clear picture of what she's devoted to, since, jokes aside, she's clearly not devoted to the well-being of her family.
I love principals more than my child.
Yikes! And you know what? Statement coming to the press. What the hell is this comically daft a woman committed to constant improvement? Who in the bloody hell actually believes that this woman is committed to anything other than causing as much destruction as possible while deflecting the blame to anyone who passes by? There are literally countless there were countless videos before they were deleted of Ruby accosting viewers and criticizers who were calling her out for her disgusting behavior and terrible treatment of her family for profit. This deeply insufferable person has never improved anything other than her manipulative techniques. The actual buttery biscuit bullshit audacity of this statement. Anyways, I'm done. Class dismissed. Now, this statement does take an interesting turn regarding Ruby's feelings about Jody compared to what we've seen in the past. Quote, initially Ms. Franke believed that Jodi Hildebrandt had the insight to offer a path to continual improvement. Ms. Hildebrandt took advantage of this quest and twisted it into something heinous. Over an extended period, Ms. Hildebrandt systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Franke. Notice there's no mention of the younger children because, yeah, this prolonged isolation resulted in Ms. Franke being subjected to a distorted sense of morality shaped by Ms. Hildebrandt's influence. Two things. Number one, great pun work from Windward Law by dropping distorted into the vernacular there. Yeah. Picked up on that like instantly. Don't know if much of the general public has, but yeah, that's the word they used all the time in their grandparenting content. Bonus points for thinking outside the cell block. But number two, this is a massive difference from how Ruby's conduct in prison and her alleged obsession with Jody's well-being has been portrayed up to this point. Per what Windward Law is saying here, nearly all of the blame, or at least the inspiration for Ruby's own crimes, is being given to Jody herself. If it weren't for Jody, saith Windward Law, then everything would be hunky-dory a-okay.
I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm gonna cut its head off.
Yeah, hunky-dory.
Huh? You got a problem, buddy? Huh? Do you?
The statement continues by saying, quote, during Ruby Franke's incarceration in Washington County Jail over the past few months, she has actively engaged in an introspection that has allowed her to reset her moral compass and understand the full weight of her actions. Miss Franke is committed to taking responsibility for the part she played in the events leading up to her incarceration. Demonstrating a sincere dedication to personal growth and rehabilitation, she has actively begun the process by reaching out to members of her family family. Through heartfelt apologies, she seeks to mend relationships and contribute positively to the healing journey of her family. Listen, y'all, okay, I gotta say this, and Ruby was just arrested in the summer, like just a few months ago. It has not been that long. She was doing this for a long time to her family. And like, it's been building and things have been happening for years. Y'all can feel differently if you want. You're entitled to your opinion, please have it. For me, she didn't like suddenly figure out how to take accountability and is like making amends and is like deeply apologetic. No, like it's just, you don't just change just like that just because the, you know, jail pinstripe suit doesn't suit your hair this week. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You know, and it's like at the end of the day, it's not mine to buy. I'm not the family directly affected. If they feel healed by this, then that is the most important thing. It's just really difficult to see people making statements like this after the truly horrendous things. And it's like, like a month later, a couple of months later, and it's like, oh, you know, learn from the actions and like committed to like, you know, I think you kind of have to like sit with the consequences of your actions for like a long time before it can remotely start to feel like maybe something is happening here, but I don't know. Anyways, Swoop has no love whatsoever for an admitted monster, no matter how sorry they say they are through their attorney. And with that, I don't even know that her reaching out to her family right now, when this is all so fresh, is actually contributing to their healing versus potentially pouring a freight train worth of salt in the wound. From here, Windward Law switches to the family at large, saying, quote, Ruby is aware that Kevin Franke has filed for divorce. While she is devastated by this news. Really? What else did you think was gonna happen? She acknowledges and understands his anger and reasoning. Despite the pain, she respects his decisions and remains hopeful that with time she can contribute to rebuilding trust and fostering understanding within their family. Ruby has offered her full cooperation to help the children reunite with their father. Now this part isn't true. Or if it is, then this is a case of too little too late and a whole lot of Job Bluth energy in regards to her own marriage.
Okay, your dad's not trying to find you your son is. That kid's your son. You're the dad. I made a huge, tiny mistake.
Now, I'm not going to take away from the possibility that Jodi Hildebrandt is allegedly a master manipulator and incredibly skilled at the art of isolating families. I said that in part 2. Countless people have come forward with disturbingly similar stories of her cunning, and it is incredibly likely that Ruby Franke was an easy mark for Jody. But sis, it takes two to tango, okay? It really does. It really does here. Then the statement ends by saying, quote, Windward Law recognizes the profound love that Ms. Franke holds for her. And we are genuinely saddened that she found herself on this challenging path under the influence of Ms. Hildebrandt. It is our firm belief that Ms. Franke is a devoted mother who unfortunately was led astray. Wow. She is sincere in her commitment to secure the best possible future for her family, and we remain hopeful that blah, 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 words, words, words. I am not reading any more of that. Listen, she is sincere in her commitment to securing the best possible future for her family. To me, would be Ruby committing to staying in prison and away from those kids, and honestly any kids, for as long as humanly possible. So if she's truly committed, then she would go to the sentencing judge and say, Judge, give me the max. If you're committed to their protection and well-being. Right? Right, Ruby? In my opinion, Ruby Franke is not fit to raise children in any safe or meaningful way anymore, and I think that this situation has proved that beyond a reasonable doubt. If the existence of the 8 passengers videos, the countless stories, and the 911 call didn't do it for you, well, the details of her plea agreement just might. On December 18th, 2023, Ruby Franke stepped foot in a court in St. George, Utah for a plea hearing on 6 charges of aggravated CA, a hearing in which, shockingly, she pled guilty to 4 of the 6 charges against her and blamed Jodi Hildebrandt in the process. Let's start here.
Good morning. Welcome to District Court. We're here in the matter of State of Utah Franke, case number 231501764. Mr. Winward is here representing Ms. Franke. Let's bring her out. And Mr. Clark and Mr. Sham are here representing the State of Utah. Ms. Franke is now here. Mr. Winward, we are scheduled for a waiver hearing. Is there going to be a waiver today?
There will.
Now, a lot of mileage has been made on social media already over how disturbing it is that Ruby Franke walks into a courtroom on these charges smiling from ear to ear. I mean, I even tweeted about it. To me, it's a truly disturbing sight to behold, but I do think it's also worth noting, to be fair, that KUTV reporter Brian Schnee outlined that some of Ruby's family actually came to the courtroom presumably to support her or to just to be present. I don't want to make assumptions, and it's incredibly likely that she was smiling at them, just trying to be fair, presenting all the context. But yeah, she came out smiling. But now that I've laid the situation out as fairly as I can, to me, that makes this even more disturbing. Ruby handcuffed top to bottom in gray and white jail clothes, about to face the harsh reality, and she doesn't showcase any other emotion until she's facing the other way. It's not a good look at all, okay? It's not.
Plus a plea agreement, Your Honor.
All right.
I'll ask the bailiff to hand you if it's been executed.
All right. Mr. Winward, you have discussed with Ms. Franke a preliminary hearing, what's involved in a preliminary hearing. She understands she has a right to a preliminary hearing on all of the charges in the case. She understands what the charges are, and she's prepared to waive a preliminary hearing in the case on all charges.
She is, and that is contained in this agreement on page 7 as well.
Very good.
Now, before we get too deep into this, we should start by establishing what exactly a plea deal is. Now, my friend and brilliant attorney and legal analyst, Emily D. Baker, has a succinct definition in her coverage of this story. I highly recommend you watch her entire video. It is so educational. She's great at breaking this stuff down and making it very digestible.
What a plea deal means is that she's going to be pleading to something less than everything she's charged to, generally with a negotiated agreement with the state, meaning the amount of time that she will be serving is negotiated between the defense and the prosecution, and they agree that the case is not going to go to trial and that the case is going to resolve. That generally means a certain number of the charges are dropped, and she is charged with 6 counts of aggravated, 3 counts for each victim.
The American Bar Association goes further by saying, quote, many criminal cases are resolved out of court by having both sides come to an agreement. This process is known as negotiating a plea or plea bargaining. In most jurisdictions, it resolves most of the criminal cases filed. Plea bargaining is prevalent for practical reasons. Defendants can avoid the time and cost of defending themselves at trial, the risk of harsher punishment, and the publicity a trial could involve. The prosecution saves the time and expense of a lengthy trial. Both sides are spared the uncertainty of going to trial. The court system is saved the burden of conducting a trial on every crime charged, and either side may begin negotiations over a proposed plea bargain, though obviously both sides have to agree before one comes to pass. Plea bargaining usually involves the defendants pleading guilty to a lesser charge or to only one of several charges. Now, in Ruby's case, she pleaded guilty to 4 charges of second-degree abuse. Not exactly lesser charges, and of course not exactly one of several charges. It was 4 out of the 6. Per the terms of her actual plea agreement, Ruby pleads guilty to these charges on these conditions. The defendant shall submit to a pre-sentence investigation with adult probation and parole. So what's that? Well, it actually is exactly what it sounds like. According to the U.S. Probation Office, quote, pre-sentence investigations include interviews with and soliciting records from from the defendant, family members, educators, treatment providers, employers, and law enforcement officials to gather and or verify background information, meaning they're digging into Ruby's entire past to use that to weigh out how strict her sentence would be. Wait, what is that? What is that, Ruby? Is that the consequences of years-long actions coming back to haunt you? Let's continue. The defendant agrees to serve a prison term. Now, this is fairly self-explanatory, though the span of time she'll serve remains to be seen. So, you know, here's hoping to closer to the maximum versus the minimum. This was me holding up a toast glass, I guess. Let's toast towards the maximum. The sentence received for count 1, count 3, count 5, and count 6 are to be served consecutive to each other. So this is meaning one after the other, back to back to back to back, versus serving them like all at the same time. You know what I mean? So to give you an example, let's just say that, I don't know, Ruby is sentenced to 5 years for count 1, 10 for count 3, 1 for count 5, and 1 for count 6. That means Ruby would serve 17 years in that scenario, since each are served one after the other. But the most interesting detail here, quote, the defendant agrees to testify truthfully against Jodi Hildebrandt, and in return, the Washington County Attorney's Office agrees to remain neutral regarding future hearings before the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. Whew! It's a lot to take in, isn't it? What I can say is good. They're arrested, they're in prison, and they're gonna serve time. We don't know how much time, but they're gonna serve time. And that's a good thing. Now, as I said at the beginning of this doc, I'm not going into the details or anything graphic. There are many reasons. Mainly, it gets to be too much. I don't want it to be too much for you guys. I want you to be able to still watch and learn from the story and hopefully get some takeaways from everything. Yeah, I mean, that's the main reason. Also, of course, I gotta, you know, adhere to the platform's policies, but I just wanna make sure that we can still talk about this stuff without it getting too much. Just very light overview. Count 1 are allegations that Ruby made one of her small ones do hours and hours of physical labor. They didn't have shoes in the summer heat, while also being forced to stay outside with no access to drinking water or sufficient food. It's a lot more than that, but I'm gonna leave it there. Now, another count I will read, this also is not graphic. It just speaks to some mental health, the human aspect, right? Quote, the actions described above caused severe emotional harm due to the fact that they began in May and escalated throughout the summer months. Additionally, the defendant and another adult regularly sought to indoctrinate them and convince them that they were evil and possessed, and that they needed to willingly be obedient to avoid punishments, and that the punishments were necessary to repent. We have literally heard that in their videos that they used to upload. They were also told that everything that was being done to them were acts of love. This is sadly one of the more common manipulation tactics that we've seen time and time again in life and in the stories that I cover on this channel. You know, the I'm only hurting you because I love you. This is your fault. I'm doing this to help you. How many of you have been told that, right? And it's a lie. If someone is harming you and telling you they're harming you to make you better, or so because it's out of love, because you need to be fixed, you need to be corrected, all of this bullshit, it's a lie. Please don't believe it. If you or someone you know are experiencing that, experiencing someone treating you like that, trust me, I've been there as a survivor, and I'm gonna start the year off again saying what I always say. If they're harming you, telling you it's your fault, and they're doing it to fix you, they are lying to you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not your fault. This is not an example of love. You don't deserve that. You are worthy of being cherished and protected, and you are worthy of feeling safe. Period. End of story. And there are people and resources out there to help you. If you feel like you have no one, please visit a resource like RAINN, R-A-I-N-N. It has great resources and tools. You can reach out to people anonymously just to talk if you just want to talk, and they can help you through it. You do not have to go through this alone, and you do not deserve it. Start this year off believing and knowing that you are valid and you are worthy. and you will get through this. I promise you, you will. And to Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt, who were saying this to Ruby's own family, I will say this to you, Ruby, with the utmost realness. F you, dude. Now, I went ahead and read the full account of everything that happened. I do not recommend that you go and do the same. There are some things in this world that you do not need to expose your mind or your spirit to, and I will not be able to unread the details of what she did. And it is beyond, it is so beyond what I ever imagined a human could do. And in my opinion, after reading it all, Ruby should never be allowed to be near children or any vulnerable person ever again. Ever. Full stop. I don't say that flippantly or lightly. After what I've read, this is the only conclusion that I think anyone should come to. Now, can people change? Yes. Do I like to believe that people can change? Yes, I have to. I have to retain that hope. Do I personally believe that someone could do this to their own for months and rehabilitate and never do this again and be safe around them? No. I don't. I don't want to feel this way, and generally I'm a very forgiving person, oftentimes to my own harm, but this tests every fiber of my being into it being unforgivable. It's just my opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own.
I've heard the court say this several times in a different fashion. We are not binding the court to any specific sentence, and the court retains its right to sentence as it sees fit. I just mentioned that this is not a Rule 11 plea, but although it's a stipulated statement of defendant.
Now, each of the 6 charges is attached to a sentence of anywhere from 1 to 15 years in prison. So, you know, do the math real quick, and you see that Ruby could serve anywhere from 6 to 90 years in prison, where she charged and convicted and got the max on all of the things.
So she is going to be getting some prison time, and that is why they are doing the pre-sentencing report, so that they have all of the information to send her to whichever prison facility she is going to, but that will be consecutive time. How much time? It could be 5 years on each count. It could be 1 year on each count. It could be 2 years on each count. The maximum is 15 years on the counts. This is a first offense in that it is the first time she has been charged with this. So she will be getting her time stacked, and we will see how much time she will get stacked. They've agreed to the 4 counts. They've agreed that those counts will be consecutive, but it does not look like they've agreed on the amount of time. That is a very interesting quirk. This makes that pre-sentencing report or pre-sentencing investigative report much more interesting. Oh, that is interesting.
So with that out of the way, how did the plea hearing itself go?
Ms. Franke, did you sign this agreement?
Yes.
And you did that today? Your signature represents to the court that you've read it carefully, that you understand what you've read, and that you agree to all of the terms. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
Ms. Franke, is anyone pressuring you to enter into this agreement?
No.
Anyone promising you anything I haven't been told about?
No.
Is there anything today that could in any way interfere with your ability to understand the agreement, its consequences, anything?
No.
No physical condition, no medication, nothing?
No.
Ms. Franke, how do you plead to count 1, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 3, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6?
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
I'm sorry. I need a moment here. I would like to speak directly to Ruby. Given the nature of what you're pleading guilty to, Ruby, I'm not buying that speech or those crocodile tears. I don't give one flying softball. In my opinion, you lost the right to cry for yourself the moment you even thought about doing the things I've read that you did that I will not share here. Some of the language being used in that agreement, the exact actions you're admitting to, are some of the sickest and most horrifying things that I have read, and I'm literally not even gonna say it out loud here. And these are just the things that happened for a few months in 2023. These aren't the years and years of things you filmed, edited, and put on your channel. I firmly believe, Ruby, that you are a sick person and not the kind of sick who doesn't know right from wrong. We always carve out space for that for people and mental illness. I'm talking about the kind of sick who knows damn well what is right and chooses wrong out of your own selfishness. And I don't know if this is a God complex, ego, whatever distortion thing you want to blame it on, but you can't blame all this on Jody when you went on your jolly way every day and every night and intentionally hid it from the world and tried to cover your tracks. You did that. You hid it. In my opinion, you're not remorseful for what you put your family through. You're remorseful because you got caught and separated from your precious Jody, who you've turned on now. Like, you have no loyalty to your family and you sold your soul with Jody, and now you don't even have the balls to be loyal to her. I don't know, maybe at sentencing this will be a good deal for you, but in the moment, you're admitting to some of the most horrifying parts of your own crimes in exchange for this good deal. So time will tell if it's worth it, Ruby. Okay, I'm done.
Counsel, what about sentencing on February 20th? I think, do you and your client agree to waive time, counsel?
We do agree to waive time, Your Honor.
So what are the benefits of Ruby taking a plea deal that requires her to still admit something so incredibly monstrous? Well, first of all, no trial. And because there's no trial, no one will be testifying against Ruby. More importantly, that means that her children won't have to testify against their mother, which would almost certainly re-traumatize them and the family. And at the end of the day, I think that's the best outcome anyone could have hoped for. They've been through more than enough and don't need this to drag on any further. That's just my opinion. But this could also result in a lighter sentence for Ruby. And plus, in a twisted way, stay with me for a second, by not going to trial, this keeps details from becoming public, which in a way kind of gives Ruby the ability to control what the public sees about how she treated her family, which was the same style of control she had when she was vlogging. If you think about it, she got to pick and choose what she filmed and how she edited it. And now she's, you know, so I don't know. Congratulations, Ruby. Even from behind bars, I guess you still managed to control at least part of the narrative that the public will know.
She will not have every detail of everything the state has found and alleged and all of the documentation that they've gathered become public information. She is getting to, one would hope, protect her children so they're not testifying. And she got 2 charges dropped, and this does not become public.
Now, you might be wondering what stipulated factual basis means and why it suddenly leads to a bit of a pandemonium in the court. According to Emily,
I'll be interested to see if any of this gets read into the record, but a stipulated factual basis means that she is agreeing to the truth of the facts of what happened. We saw Creighton Waters in the Murdaugh plea go on at length about the factual basis. That is in the written agreement that has been signed that the court has. So there are agreed upon facts where she is not just pleading guilty to the charges, but admitting the underlying facts of what happened.
So no more allegedly in here, okay? I did the allegedly dance and now I can just say it now. Ruby Franke is guilty. She did it. We all saw it early. We saw the warning signs and have been seeing it for years, but now she has admitted to it wholeheartedly. And whatever happens from here, the single most important aspect of the story can finally begin: the healing process for everybody that has been harmed directly or indirectly by Ruby Franke.
Heidi, good evening. I've reached out to a number of Ruby Franke's closest family members after giving them some space at the courthouse yesterday to process what took place. I heard from Ruby's sister-in-law. Part of the statement shared with me from Jennifer Franke reads, "Yesterday was a very hard day for my husband and I. We were a mixed bag of emotions as we watched our sister-in-law, Ruby Franke, stand before the court to plead guilty to what happened to her children. Aaron and I are absolutely heartbroken at what we know happened to the children. We hope that those children will know that they are not alone And while sorry isn't enough for all you've been through, you do have family close by who love you and know that none of what happened to you was your fault.
On December 27th, 2023, Jodi Hildebrandt entered a courtroom in St. George, Utah for a waiver hearing on her own charges. Unlike Ruby, Jodi entered the room with a much more bleak emotional state and what looked like maybe some tears running down her face. And to nobody's surprise, this happened.
Mr. Terry Pierce, you have just handed the court a signed plea agreement.
That is correct, Your Honor. With respect to the waiver, Ms. Hildebrandt, we have had discussions. She fully understands the purpose of a preliminary hearing, what the burden of proof would be, and that she has the right to a preliminary hearing, but in conjunction with the entry of her plea today, we waive the preliminary hearing.
Like Ruby, Jodi also took a plea deal with language and terms nearly identical to the one that Ruby signed. Jodi, like Ruby, pleaded guilty to 4 counts and had 2 charges dropped against her. Now, much like Ruby's charges, I won't read the specifics of what Jodi pleaded guilty to, but there are a few specific deviations, with one of them mentioning that Jodi forced one of the victims to jump into a cactus multiple times. Ordinarily, I'd make a passing remark about how there's a special place in hell for certain people, but honestly, I don't even think hell would take her, okay? But that ain't none of my business. If there was ever any doubt that Ruby and Jodi were disgusting, Jodi forcing someone to do this underscores immediately not only how awful this was, but also how it served absolutely no fucking purpose either. What is the purpose of doing? Why? Why? This goes far beyond the questionable parenting in YouTube videos into highly, let's be real, sociopathic looking behavior. Another word I don't use lightly. So with Ruby and Jodi both pleading guilty, what does this mean? Well, it means, again, no trial, period. Not for Ruby, not for Jodi, which again spares the family any courtroom trauma. That's a very good thing in my opinion. That also means that the sentencing could potentially be rather firm for both Ruby and Jodi, given the severity of what they both admitted to doing. However, we won't know for sure until February 20th, the sentencing date for both Ruby and Jodi, just how severe the punishment is going to be. And honestly, I'm not holding my breath because I just kind of feel like if I do, and then it becomes like, it winds up being a much lesser sentence, I don't want to be any more angry than I already am about this case. What we do know for sure is that in the case of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt, it's no longer alleged. Both of these women are criminals of the worst kind, and for once, justice of some sort will be served against them. But you know what? Don't let me be the one to only speak about what this all means in this doc. Here is a clip from Jodi's nibbling, who was also harmed by Jodi in a similar manner years ago when they were younger, and what this guilty plea means to them.
It's been quite a journey on my end of processing and reprocessing everything that's been going on. The day that it happened, I was surprisingly really angry. I didn't expect to feel so much anger kind of come up in that experience. I think part of it was when her lawyer came out and gave just the most ridiculous comment to the press about how Jodi is just, she pled guilty because she's just trying to, you know, take accountability for her actions, and she just really cares about the kids healing and all of this garbage, just complete trash. That was pretty enraging. Like, it's so obviously a manipulation tactic to save face. Slowly throughout the day, like, a lot of this weight just like slowly kind of lifted off my shoulders, and a lot of this subconscious fear that somehow she was going to be able to kind of wiggle her way out of any accountability slowly lifted.
Jesse and everyone involved, the family, I truly hope for yours and all of the victims' healing, the family's healing, that both Ruby and Jodi receive as close to the maximum sentence as possible, and that the weight of what you have survived continues to lift away from you, and that you can finally find healing when you're ready. This was not your fault. You didn't deserve this. None of you did. And I hope peace comes soon, sooner than later for you all.
Yeah, so I was able to speak to the DA a little bit that evening, and he informed me that the likelihood of her getting maximum sentencing is incredibly high, that she's most likely going to be getting the 60 years.
As always, please excuse the brief tone shift, a little bit of a 2024 kitty cleanser to lighten the mood with all of this heaviness. The babies are having a good start to the year. They're sleeping a little bit. They're getting a little bit more lazy, okay? I've been fostering them. Let's be real, okay? They're with me at this point. I still got 4 of them. 2 of the babies got adopted. Mama Bill was adopted, and I still got 4 of the babies. Happy New Year once again. I wish you all of the greatest just healing and health and wellness of the mind and of your body, and just the start or the continuation of the things that you are passionate about, the attaining of the dreams, the goals that you have for yourself, for your loved ones, for your family, for your friends, that you can be more connected within yourself, within your communities, and that you have joy, even just a little bit on a daily basis. And even if that feels impossible, we'll start off on a monthly, a little bit of joy at least once a month, then we'll get it down to once a week, and then we'll get it down to daily. And I wish that for all of you. And I know that you can have that. You are valid, you are wonderful. Okay, be sure to grab your pieces from the brand new Petty University Valid collection by tapping the link below and in the pinned comment. I love seeing all of your selfies, and I truly believe you're going to love these pieces as much as I do. I hope they're a constant reminder of just how powerful, brave, and valid you are. So please do keep tagging me in your photos on Instagram so that I can share you on my Instagram stories. And also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Both are linked below. That's where I post most often. I do polls, I do little check-ins on life, all of that good stuff. Also, I have officially launched a brand new second channel called Swoop 2, T-O-O. I'm so excited. We've hit over 125,000 subscribers, which is just mind-boggling. Thank you so much. It's a little more unhinged over there as we dive into the cesspool of all kinds of dark, bizarre, mind-bending stories, mystery, spooky things, true crime. The videos are much shorter than my docs here, and I've got the newest video linked below and pinned in the top comment here, so be sure to subscribe and check out my second channel and take a dip in the cesspool. A couple of shout outs from my last doc on The Biggest Loser. Honey, that story was absolutely wild. If you haven't seen it, it is also linked below. First shout out goes to Paulette, who says, "Thank you for this swoop. I was over 500 pounds. I suffered so much because of my weight. People told me horrible things. I am now 145 pounds and still struggle. Hearing from you that I am still valid and should be kind to myself was something I needed to hear." Listen, you are an incredible person at any and every size, period. I don't care. I don't care. Love yourself. That is what is important. Please don't let other people judge your appearance. It doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter. We have one life on this earth here. It doesn't matter their opinions on your appearance. Who cares? What matters is you and loving yourself, and you absolutely are valid and worthy. Second shout out goes to Aspirin Hurt, who says, "The Biggest Loser altered my little brain chemistry watching as a child with my overweight parents. We had to do the Jillian Michaels brand home workouts and follow a diet based on contestants. It was a nightmare. I'm always glad to see the show torn down because it deserves it." I can't imagine what you would have been going through during that time, and I am glad that you are out of it and can see that it was wrong, and I hope that you are feeling good now. If you want to be my next shout out, make sure you're following me on Twitter and retweet this video right here. Be sure to download the super fun Cooking Fever game for free right now and start cooking in your own restaurant right now. You deserve it, honey. This is the very first time we've ever covered allegations of harm, misconduct, or anything really where actual legal justice is being served. Now, as I mentioned before, Brittany Dawn came close with her $400,000 payout to the state of Texas, but this is, for once, an acknowledgement by the legal system of a family channel doing something horrendous and being held accountable to the fullest extent possible. No matter how sentencing goes, this isn't the end, but I think it's safe to say that in the bigger picture beyond this case, this could be the beginning of a very long road towards something positive. The societal realization that family vlogging very often leads to not only exploitation, but often harm, despite the coverage done by people like myself or Mormon Stories podcast, Jordan and McKay, Radiant Britt, Markey, and the countless others who are blowing the whistle on family channels to try and raise awareness. It shouldn't have to take a child crawling out of a window for change to happen. It shouldn't have even taken the first time anybody noticed something was wrong with how Ruby and Kevin Franke raised their kids to put a stop to this before the worst of it even started. Now, in theory, could there be an ethical way of being a family vlogger? Yes. I have to believe that there's got to be somebody out there doing it right, where, you know, one vlogs but doesn't showcase their kids as the stars and central focus. That's where things really start seeming to go haywire, you know? I mean, they can't consent to being shown on camera anyways, and they don't even get properly paid for their daily labor of these things. Now, the actual act of vlogging your experience as a parent can, in fact, be incredibly helpful and relatable to millions of parents out there. Sharing a few innocent moments here and there, I don't know, like the blowing out of birthday candles, fine. Like there are boundaries with everything. It's not a black and white, it's a gray, right? I just don't know what the perfect gray is. But, you know, I'm fairly certain at least some of you could even recommend a few family vloggers who are doing it right in the comments, and I would love to hear about them, because honestly, I'm ready to throw the whole genre in the trash. But I believe it's a thin line between innocent vlogging and exploitation, and as we've seen with countless family channels, turning your kids into content, and especially your kids' pain, is a easy, tried and true method for people to fall quickly into, even if their original intentions were harmless. Not every family channel that's been accused of misconduct started off that way, but as is often the case with some creators, when you start getting, you know, more clicks, likes, attention, engagement, money, you know, you filmed the kids and then all the people are like, "Ooh, we want more of this." Then you might feel pressure to do whatever it was to keep that up. And for family channels, that engagement sadly comes at the cost of those who can't do anything to defend themselves. And sadder still, we're continually left with platforms that do not place secure enough regulations to protect those individuals. If there was a separate, stricter criteria for family channels, perhaps it would deter the bad actors from even starting in the first place. So that leaves me with the ultimate question. If family channels could find a way to lean away from exploitation and more into making the vlogger and their insights the center of the channel, and if the kids can just be, you know, kept safe, can family channels find a healthy way to exist in 2024 and beyond? I don't know, but it sounds like a much more promising future for the kids, and isn't that what we all should want? Well, here's hoping. Stay ready, stay petty, class dismissed. Swoop!